Welcome back to the news at 10. We can revisit that discussion now on the reappointment of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Joining me now is Channels TV's data consultant, Mr. Babajide Ogunsanwo. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10. And we have a crystal ball.
Oh, yes.
We're looking into that tonight.
We're going to spend most of our lives in the future, and I think this will now be a permanent feature of our discussion, to be able to just, even though I might not be able to predict the future, really? I can share some hidden secrets about the present. Okay, let's talk about the present then. Another 5-year term for the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, if he's confirmed by the National Assembly. What does the future of monetary policy and the financial environment look like? Before we talk about the future, we should review his performance, but there are 3 facts I want to talk about first. The first is President Muhammadu Buhari has never appointed a CBN governor. That is a fact. In 1983, when he was military head of state, the central bank governor had been appointed by President Shagari, and so he continued with him. This time around, we know that the central bank governor was appointed by the former president. So what we see is, and the insight is, that President Buhari seems to be more patient than even the biblical Job. And some other day we'll talk about if his patience is good or bad. The second fact is that we've seen 5 central bank governors since 1999. But the third and most interesting thing is, if the Congress approves Godwin Emefiele, he then has the possibility of becoming the second longest serving governor of the central bank. And that's if you look at the history of central bank governors. We've seen 12 central bank governors, and the longest serving has been Governor Abdul Qadir Ahmed, who served as central bank governor from June of 1982 to September of 1993, 11 years, 3 months. And so President Godwin Emefiele, has the probability, if he's approved by Congress, to move up from 1,804 days that he has spent in office today now to now over 10 years in office. So we'll look up to what Congress does on that.
Okay, you need to quickly look into that crystal ball of yours to tell us what the future looks like now.
There are several things we could look at, especially if you look at some of his critics. And if you look at what his critics talk about, his critics point to the exchange rate. Now, if you look at the exchange rate and you look at what has happened over time, the complaint is that among all 12 past CBN governors, Godwin Emefiele comes across as one of those few that has seen a sharp decline in exchange rate. So exchange rate performance hasn't been favorable for him. It won't be one of the things he will campaign on if he were a politician. But if you were to look at what those that stand for him say, they point to the external reserves. And if you look at the performance of external reserves, what you will notice is external reserves, Godwin Emefiele comes in the top 5 of best performers among all the 12. But what the future now really looks like is this. First is we're looking at what will monetary policy say.
What do you see?
I see between 12% and 15%. The second is what sort of projects will the central bank continue in? And what I see here right now is the central bank is most likely going to continue with a lot of agricultural projects. Now let's also look at the final thing, and which is what sort of capital and what sort of policies will the central bank governor continue with? And if you look at what he has done, the Emefiele era, we'll see that in the first 2 years, there was a sharp decline in capital coming into the country. But in the last 2 years, from 2016, 2017, 18, we see capital growth, even though we are not yet up to what it was in 2014. But what I see is the attention of the central bank will focus more on attracting capital investment, one, ensuring that it continues to grow external reserves, and then trying to ensure that it tames inflation rate. And those are the 3 things I see in the crystal ball tonight.
Well, you've seen a lot, Babajide. Certainly, you have seen a lot. I haven't seen anything in there, but thanks a lot for helping us to see on the news.
In the final analysis, yes, we're looking at the new or the extension of the term of the central bank governor. But in the season of Ramadan, we need to ask ourselves, how do we govern our business and how do we govern our lives? Remember, in the Quran, chapter 17, verse 7, and in Galatians, chapter 6, verse 7, it talks about whatever you sow, you reap. So yes, we're talking about the governor of the central bank, but we need to ask ourselves, how do we govern our businesses and how do we govern our lives.
And that's how we predict the future.
You need to see better.
Style.
We need to see, you need to see better.
Thanks a lot, Babajide. Always interesting having you here on the News at 10.